Okay, everybody, thanks for coming today. We're going to talk about respect in our podcast. So that's what our topic is. I look forward to speaking about it because it's one of my favorite topics. Respect is something that people think about that we have to just give. We have to give out to people. We have to show respect to people. And it's kind of built into martial arts. Part of our bowing, when we say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am to people, there's a lot of structure that people are showing respect to higher ranks. There's this hierarchical structure up to chief masters like me. And I don't think about it that way. Well, I think about it that way, but there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to respect than just us doing things for people. We get a lot of rewards from it. When we show respect, we tend to get a lot of it back. So we're going to talk in part one, though, about our definition of respect at Karate Built Martial Arts and why it's different than what people usually think about and why that makes a big difference. So our definition is treating others the way they should be treated. And you can read a lot more about that in Life Skills of Leaders. It's the last chapter in the book. And we talk about respect for others. We talk about respect within yourself, and we have a whole list of different ways that you can think about respect. But let's get to it. We're going to talk about the normal definition of respect, which people think about a lot, which is what's often called the golden rule. And the golden rule is, if I remember the definition right, which people will typically have different definitions of this, but the golden rule is treating others the way you want to be treated. I'm going to underline the way you want to be treated. So treating others the way you want to be treated. In other words, I want to treat others good because, I wouldn't want to treat them any worse than I would want to be treated. I wouldn't want to shove them into the dirt because I don't want them to shove me in the dirt. I wouldn't want to be mean to them because I wouldn't want them to be mean to me. I would want to maybe give them something nice because I'd want them to give me something nice. So it's a lot about reciprocity. There's maybe that's a big word for some of the kids that might be listening, but it'd be a trade. There'd be a trade. I'd do something nice for them, or I would expect kind of equal behavior. Now, there's a couple problems with this. One is it doesn't improve any behavior. So it kind of implies I'm never going to treat anybody any nicer than I would expect them to treat me. Plus, there's another part of it. If I have good self-esteem, I don't necessarily need to treat anybody with extra kindness, extra goodness, because I might not necessarily need to get that back in return. I'll talk about that in a little bit when I talk about our definition. So our definition is treating others let me write here a little better. The way, that part's the same. They, not you, but they should be treated. So the first part, this line is the same, but the second line is completely different. The way they should be treated. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is it's not a trade. It's not a trade. I don't have an expectation to get something back from them. Now, there's something magical that happens here. One of my sayings is the magic is that there's no magic, but something automatically happens that we'll talk about in part two a little bit, that you actually do get a lot of respect back when you follow this rule. But But let's talk about what this means. What this means is, let me use myself as an example. I'm a chief master, and I get a lot of really special treatment because of that. And I'm not sure whether I deserve that or not, but it's part of the rules, part of the rules of being in martial arts for as long as I've been, and to get the rank and the accomplishment. Kind of like also a doctor, a medical doctor. They've gone through a lot of training. They've had to suffer through a ton of education, and go through residency, which is a brutal amount of work that they have to do. So we call them doctor. We have a title for them. We don't call them Bob or Sally or Jeff. We call them Dr. Jones or Dr. Smith. We don't call them, by their first name typically. And we use a title for them, and we show them extra respect. So we show them extra respect because of what they've done. Now, probably, and I can speak for myself as a chief master, probably the doctor would say, they don't necessarily need you to call them that title. They don't need you to call them doctor, or I don't necessarily need you to call me Chief Master Moody. But it's what other people do, because that's what they feel like I've earned. So they're treating other people better than they want to be treated. It has nothing to do with the way they want to be treated. It has to do with the way they think that other people should be treated. So that's part of it. The other thing is, let me use myself as an example again. I have really good self-confidence, I think. I don't necessarily need to be called yes sir or yes ma'am. I don't say yes sir, yes ma'am, and Mr. Smith, Master Sanborn, Master Rich, some of our instructors. I don't say those titles because I want them to say Chief Master back to me. I don't do it because I want to trade. So let me look at it this way. My minimum behavior that I need for me to think you're not being mean to me or you're not being a jerk would be just to be nice enough. My minimum requirements for you to be respectful to me would be pretty low. I mean, that you're just not being mean. There's a BEING in there. MEAN, not being mean. Pretty much, I think people are being relatively respectful to me if they're not being mean. They're not being jerks. If I'm at the store, they're doing their job. If I'm, somewhere, they're treating me relatively nice. They're not being mean. So if I followed this rule that I just wanted to treat other people the way I wanted to be treated, I would treat everybody just not being mean. I wouldn't say yes, sir. I wouldn't do anything special. I wouldn't open the door for people if I saw them coming up to a store. I wouldn't say yes, sir, yes, ma'am to the people at Starbucks, which I do, by the way. I wouldn't do anything special. I would just not be mean, and that would be the end of it. So this rule here isn't really a rule of respect. It's not a rule, at least of the kind of respect we in martial arts, in karate build martial arts, want to have. This rule, treating people the way they should be treated, it doesn't have anything to do with how I want to be treated. It only has to do with how we decide how we should treat other people. So I don't need anybody ever to open the door for me when I go into a store, but I'm going to do it for other people. If nobody ever does it for me, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't feel like there has to be a trade. I don't get mad. I've been opening the door for people for 5 years, and for 54 years in my case. Well, probably not when I was a little kid, but for a long time. And I've been doing it, but nobody's been doing it back. Well, forget those people. I'm never going to do it again. No, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do this for people because that's the way it should be. That's the way I decided people should be treated. So that's really what we're going to talk about today in part one of our podcast. That's the definition of respect that we're going to be using as we move forward. Now, in part two, I'm going to talk about how this benefits you. There's two big benefits to operating this way here instead of operating by following this, what they call the golden rule, which I think is a very lame rule that I don't want to follow. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask the instructors. They know a lot about this. If they don't know, they will get me and I will be happy to answer some of the questions. We'd love to have any questions that you want to ask, and we'll be happy to answer them in the podcast and have a whole list of questions, and we'd be happy to use your name in them if you like. If you don't want to, that's fine too. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have and do it in one of our follow-up podcasts as well. So again, hope you had a good experience here learning about respect. We'll be coming back with part 2, and you can learn more about it, and it'll make a big benefit in your life. Just like all of these life skills, we want this to have a major impact in your life, both inside and outside of our martial arts school. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.